There's a place in the mountains of West Virginia where children's laughter still echoes through rusted metal, where swings sway on windless nights, where the ground holds more than secrets. Lake Shawnee Amusement Park, built on blood, closed after tragedy, and some say it never truly emptied of the children who came to play. This is Night Shift Stories, and tonight we walk into a playground that time forgot, but the dead remember. The swing sets at Lake Shawnee hang from chains corroded by 60 years of mountain weather. They creak in the silence, and sometimes they move when the air is perfectly still. Visitors have watched those swings for hours, waiting for wind that never comes. And still, the seats rock gently, as if invisible children refuse to leave. But the swings are only the latest chapter. The land beneath them has been collecting the dead for over 2 centuries. Princeton, West Virginia, coal country. The Appalachian Mountains rise around the town like walls, holding in generations of folklore, grief, and things that linger after death. In 1783, a settler named Mitchell Clay built his family's homestead on this land. The mountains were beautiful, the soil was rich, and the Shawnee had called this place sacred ground. The Shawnee did not forget. In 1783, members of a Shawnee war party attacked the Clay homestead. 3 of Mitchell Clay's children were killed in the massacre. But the violence did not begin with the Clays. Archaeologists have since estimated that as many as 3,000 Native American bodies lie buried beneath this soil. The Shawnee had used this land for burials long before European settlers arrived. It was never meant to be disturbed. But the mountains have short memories for the living. Nearly 150 years passed. The massacre faded into local legend. The burial ground became farmland, then forest, then something else entirely. In 1926, a businessman named C.T. Snidow purchased the land. He saw the lake, the hills, the space for families. He saw opportunity. He built an amusement park. For the coal mining families of Mercer County, Lake Shawnee was an escape. Children who spent their days in the shadows of tipples and slag heaps could finally run free. The Ferris wheel turned. The carousel played its calliope music. Children lined up for the swings, those same swings that hang there still, rusting in the silence. But tragedy stalked the park from the beginning. Over its 40-year operation, 6 children would die in accidents on Lake Shawnee's rides. 6 children who never went home. The most documented death happened on the swing ride itself. A young girl was swinging, laughing, probably, when a delivery truck began backing up nearby. The driver never saw her. The truck struck the swing seat while she was still on it. She died from the impact. Her laughter ended in a single moment. But visitors say they can still hear it echoing through the trees. Another child, a young boy, drowned in the park's swimming pool. His arm became stuck in a drain pipe. By the time anyone reached him, it was too late. The pool is gone now, filled in with dirt decades ago. But the land remembers. This land always remembers. In 1966, after 40 years of operation and 6 documented child deaths, Lake Shawnee Amusement Park closed its gates forever. The rides stopped turning. The calliope fell silent. The families went home. But no one tore down the structures, no one bulldozed the grounds. They just left. And so the park sat. For decades. The forest crept back in. The rust spread like a slow disease. And something else moved in, or perhaps had never left. Today, visitors to Lake Shawnee report strange occurrences. The most common, children sitting on the swings. Children who vanish when approached. Children dressed in clothing from another era. The swings themselves move without wind. Witnesses have watched in still air as the chains begin to sway. Slowly at first, then with the rhythm of a child pumping their legs. Skeptics point to wind currents between the mountains, to the physics of hanging objects and imperceptible breezes. They have their explanations. The swings keep moving anyway. Paranormal investigators have recorded audio at the site. Electronic voice phenomena they claim captures children's voices, laughter in empty fields, a girl calling out a name. The recordings are disputed. Audio artifacts, some say, pareidolia, the brain finding patterns in random noise. But those who've stood in the silence say they heard it clearly, without any machine. The Ferris wheel has its own stories. Its rusted cars hang frozen at all angles, as if the ride stopped mid-rotation and never started again. Some visitors have seen figures in the Ferris wheel cars, shadows that move when the cars don't, faces pressed against the glass of cabins that haven't carried passengers in 60 years. And then there's the circle of stones, a ring of rocks on the property that some believe marks a ceremonial Shawnee site. Visitors report feeling watched when they approach it. The stones are old, far older than the park, older than the Clay homestead. Whatever happened here, whatever continues to happen, stretches back beyond memory. West Virginia has officially embraced the park's dark reputation. Lake Shawnee is now part of the state's Paranormal Trail, a tourism initiative connecting the most haunted locations in the region. The park's current owners have leaned into the legacy. They offer seasonal tours, ghost hunts, opportunities to walk the grounds after dark and see for yourself. October draws the largest crowds. Something about autumn in Appalachia. The dying leaves, the early darkness, the way the mountains seem to close in tighter around the hollows. The tours begin at dusk. Groups gather at the entrance as the light fades. By the time they reach the swings, full dark has fallen. And that's when people say the activity increases. Cameras malfunction, batteries drain without explanation. People feel touches on their shoulders from hands that aren't there. These accounts pile up, year after year. Believers say the convergence of tragedies created something unique here. The massacre of 1783. The Native American burial ground. The 6 dead children. Layer upon layer of grief soaked into the soil. Others say it's simpler than that. Children died here. Children who came expecting joy and found something else instead. Why would they ever leave a place meant for play? The girl who died on the swings would be over 90 now if she had lived. Her grandchildren might have brought their own children here, if the park had stayed open. Instead, she remains forever young, forever on the swings, forever laughing, forever waiting for someone to push her. Just one more time. The park sits on approximately 12 acres. That's 12 acres of burial ground, massacre site, and tragedy, concentrated into a single location. The density of history here is staggering. Locals who grew up with the park remember it differently. Summer days that stretched forever. The smell of cotton candy. The joy of simple pleasures in a coal-camp childhood. They remember the rides. They remember the laughter. They remember friends who grew up and moved away, or stayed and worked the mines, or never grew up at all. This part of West Virginia has always lived close to death. The mines took fathers and sons. The mountains took those who weren't careful. The park took children who were just trying to have fun. Lake Shawnee is open for seasonal tours and paranormal investigations. If you're planning a visit, check their website for dates. October books up quickly. The park is part of West Virginia's official Paranormal Trail. If haunted locations interest you, the state has mapped out an entire route of reportedly haunted sites, history and mystery combined. You can photograph the original swing sets and Ferris wheel, the same rides that have stood since 1926, frozen exactly as they were when the park closed in 1966. If stories like this keep you up at night in the best way, consider subscribing. We bring you places like Lake Shawnee every week, places where history and horror overlap. For those researching the Clay family massacre, local historical societies in Mercer County have documented the settler-indigenous conflicts of the region. The truth is darker than any ghost story. The Shawnee people were pushed from their lands by waves of European settlement. The burial ground at Lake Shawnee represents just one small piece of a displacement that spanned the entire eastern half of the continent. When we talk about haunted land, perhaps we're really talking about guilt, the unspoken knowledge that we build our lives on ground that was taken, not given. The children who died at Lake Shawnee, all 6 of them were innocent. They came to play. The girl on the swings, the boy in the pool. They didn't know what lay beneath their feet. Maybe that's why they stay, not because of the land's history, but because they were happy here. This was the place they chose to spend their summer days. The swings represent everything an amusement park is supposed to be. Simple joy. The thrill of flight. The feeling that anything is possible when your feet leave the ground. When the swings move at Lake Shawnee, perhaps it's not a haunting. Perhaps it's just joy that refuses to end. Children who found something good in a place built on sorrow. The most recent recorded phenomenon occurred during a 2019 investigation. Multiple witnesses saw a swing begin moving at 2 a.m. in documented windless conditions for nearly 3 minutes. 3 minutes. 180 seconds of impossible motion. The investigators stood frozen, watching, as something they couldn't see played on swings that should have been still. What would you do if you stood in that darkness and watched metal and wood move without cause? Would you run? Would you stay? Would you push the swing back? Lake Shawnee sits quiet most days. The Ferris wheel doesn't turn, the carousel doesn't play. The pool where a boy drowned is just a depression in the earth now. But the swings still hang. And sometimes, when the air is still and the light is low, they remember what it felt like to hold a child. This has been Night Shift Stories. The park is closed. The rides are over. But in Lake Shawnee, the children are still playing. Sleep well, if you can.